Todd Monken opened up on the Baltimore Ravens AFC Championship loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, Rashod Bateman, and a lot more for the first time since the season ended. We talk about that and so much more coming up next year on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens your first listen each and every single day. Are free and available on all podcasting platforms for you. So that's in video form on YouTube and in audio form wherever you get your shows. Be sure to subscribe to us anywhere you get your podcasts, any way you'd like to watch your podcast. We're here for you 5 days a week with that daily Ravens coverage, news, analysis, updates, and so much more. We are back. It was quite the struggle to get that intro done as our guest, Rocco DiSangro. I know I get my Kodak moment every time at the beginning. Rocco films me, puts it out on Twitter for content because I do my little almost like a pregame ritual essentially before the show starts. So Rocco has his fun with that. I hope you got what you were looking for, Rocco.
This is the first time, Kevin, I've ever seen you break character during it, and it's fantastic to see. So hopefully more of that to come. But yeah, if you haven't seen that, got to check it out right now on Twitter. So Kevin, you're gonna, I think you might go not viral on my Twitter. I don't have the following that you do, but eventually we're gonna get you there.
I have to check it out when we're done with this. I'm sure. Or maybe I'll look down on my phone and you'll ask if I'm sleeping again, which I'm gonna have to do a lot today because we're gonna be reacting to some quotes, and I cannot look at them on my computer because just like Ryan Ripken, where, on the Ryan Ripken show, Ryan's computer is on the way out. Mine is also on the way out. So I have to look at it from my phone. So if I'm looking down, I'm looking at the quotes on my phone, not on the computer. Rocco was a little worried I fell asleep on him last time. So will not be the case. I would not fall asleep on my own show. Thank you very much.
Wouldn't surprise me with the hours that you do and don't sleep, Kevin. So, pump the brakes.
This is dinner time, man. We're recording 12:45 at night. This is prime dinner time for me. I'm wide awake. I don't know what you're talking about with that. So we're ready. Another great episode of Locked On Ravens today. Let's start. Todd Monken was the big story here. First time really speaking since the season ended, at least, getting up on the podium and talking about essentially what was such a disappointing loss. In fact, one of the most heartbreaking losses in Ravens history, that AFC Championship loss to Kansas City. And of course, that was a pretty big topic of the day yesterday. And Monken had a couple of things to say. He first said, certainly we could have run the ball better. That's the first, which is true. But I think a lot of people, it was like, well, yeah, you could have, but also it's not just running the ball better. You could have run the ball more. I think that's where it's like better versus more. What's it going to look like? How did it get to that point? And for a lot of people, I don't know what Todd Monken could have said to not face flack from the fan base on Thursday. I mean, he had to get up there. He owned it, which I thought he did. But it was him opening up for the first time, and I think that's why it was such a big storyline. Yeah,
really the first time that local media has gotten to speak to Todd Monken, because we didn't get to speak with him after the AFC Championship game loss. It was only Harbaugh and select players and whoever he got in the locker room, whoever really wanted to talk. But there weren't many guys that really wanted to because it left such a sour taste in their mouths. For Monken, yeah, what else are you going to say? You got to own it. If you don't, this fan base is going to come after you. They're not going to be happy. And I know Todd Monken's job doesn't rely on how this fan base feels. If it did, there would be a lot of coaches out there without jobs. Just plain and simple. That's how it is. But to go up there to say what he said, I agree with you on the wording. It was did you mean they should have ran the ball more or they should have ran it better? Like, are we taking that literally? Regardless, they should have run the ball more and they should have run the ball better. Both. But that's why fans were so disappointed, because the Ravens got away from their identity and what they did best, and that's run the ball. Getting a guy like Derrick Henry, I don't think that you can possibly do that. I would hope not, but we'll see what happens going forward. The hope is that Derrick Henry is getting a handful, not 3, not 4, not 2, not 6. I want to call a handful like 20 carries potentially a game, or in the AFC Championship game, or even more Whatever the Ravens need to do, feed that man. If he's healthy, if he's good, if he's doing his thing, you gotta feed the beast. And he is a beast. He is a freak of nature, man.
It's like the LeBron thing, right? Not one, not two, not three, and he stops at what? He stopped at what, 7 or something? You go far past that.
I don't want to do that, Kevin. Don't clip me like that, because you know how that worked for LeBron. It's like everyone was like, that was a viral moment. Everyone was like, "Oh, LeBron, you're gonna win set." No, you're not. It's not gonna happen. So, no, but you get what I was saying with the whole Derrick Henry thing, man. The guy's just a physical specimen. He's unbelievable. Just seeing him, like, the workouts in the offseason, it's the exact opposite of how I felt as a Sixers fan watching Ben Simmons in the offseason. It's like seeing Derrick Henry. It's like, this dude is putting in the work. He's grinding. And the product he's putting, like the work he's putting in the offseason, it's going to translate to the regular season and to the postseason. That is how Derrick Henry is built. He's just, he's a monster, dude. It's ridiculous. People that are running backs shouldn't be built the way Derrick Henry is. And yet here we are. He's a Raven. Crazy.
Still, even during OTAs, right? Just a simple Lamar Derrick Henry handoff got the entire fan base buzzing, and rightfully so. I was pumped up to see it. Like, you get Lamar and Derrick Henry in the same backfield, something that I think a lot of people should have seen earlier. The trade deadline, there were rumors swirling about him coming to Baltimore, but timing just lined it up this way. It always felt inevitable at some point, and so Derrick Henry officially a Raven. But Todd Monken was asked about the AFC Championship multiple times, wasn't just the first part. And in that first answer, he said, executing better, etc. He owns it. But he also said, quote, "I'm not trying to justify," we're going to leave out the word he said because this is a family-friendly show. "I'm not trying to justify, I promise you that. In general, we needed to run the ball better, and we didn't. That's a fact. You can't control the game if you can't run the football." And to elaborate on that a little bit more, Monken also talked a little bit about the fact that, yes, executing better is the key, but he said to not execute at a high level when it presents itself is the issue. He also said we got to run the ball better. We got to attack them the way we plan to attack them, and I got to do a better job. That's the way it is. That's what I'm paid to do, and that is do it against the best when it counts. That's it. So accountability taken there by Todd Monken for sure, not justifying anything and saying, yeah, you know what? We have to execute and we have to do this better, but it also was on me. And the thing that I really took away from this is we got to attack them the way we plan to attack them. And we've talked about this, Rocco. It felt like Baltimore got away from their game plan in that championship game. In Monken's comments there, it's like, well, yeah, we have to stick to our plan. And it felt like they abandoned it too early. So what do you make of those comments? Do you think he took enough accountability there? Do you think that he said the right stuff, or do you think at this point it's just all moot because it's done and it's happened?
I think it's done and it's happened. This is the first time, but it's been months. It's like it's a new season. They're looking ahead for a new season. Obviously, the narrative and the storyline is going to be there because this is the first time you've heard from Todd Monken since the AFC Championship game in like a public setting. So the question had to be asked. It was, and it had to be answered, and it was. So you know what? Done and over with. Moving forward, look ahead, hit the refresh button, and hopefully the Ravens can stick to their identity and will stick to their identity this season. Fans want to see more of that. Like I said, if they would have lost in that fashion and ran the ball, 20 or 30 times or whatever a solid number for the Ravens was last season, and they just basically died on their sword, I think the fans would have taken this loss a bit better. It still would have sucked. Obviously, you get there, you're like within arm's distance of a Super Bowl, getting to the big game, and then you lose. It's not going to feel, great at all. But if they would have done it their way and lost doing it their way, I think this fan base would have been like, okay, it is what it is. It sucks. We can move on. They did their thing. They did what they did all season long, and we just ran into a better team at that point in time. But you know what? Many, I feel like, don't feel like the Chiefs were the better team there. They feel like the Ravens had the better roster. This fan base does, looking at the talent they had, looking at the teams they beat at the end of the regular season. They went through a buzzsaw, Kevin. You know it. I know it. You're sleeping right now. I see those eyes closed. But yeah, you and I both know the schedule that they had. It's not going to get any easier this season. But you know what? It is what it is, done and over with. Like you said, moot, fine. Move on. We're good. Hopefully, this is the last time we talk about it on Locked On Ravens, and we keep having to bring it up because I know people are tired of hearing about it. You are, I am. Let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the only way to it's not going to ever be erased from history, but the way that people will forget about it is if the Ravens just go and get the job done. I mean, 2011 to 2012, right? Baltimore loses 2011, 2012, 2012, 2013, when the Ravens lose on the Billy Cundiff, Lee Evans heartbreaker in the AFC Championship, and then they come back the next year, they win the Super Bowl, right? I mean, it didn't come down to one play. I mean, there were multiple different things where Baltimore didn't execute game plan, et cetera, et cetera. But at this point, it's like, yeah, you have Derrick Henry, just don't let it happen again, right? It will be, we already know it's malpractice what they did in the championship game last time around. If you do it again this time around, it's like, it's worse, one, because you have Derrick Henry, and two, because, I mean, you did it the first time, and you know that's your game. And it's going to be even more their game because you have Derrick Henry. The rushing attack has been the best in the league or up there for years with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, who were great. They were awesome. But Derrick Henry elevates your ceiling and elevates your floor of the best rushing attack. And that, to me, I mean, even if you want to talk about a bit what Todd Monken had to say, and I guess we'll talk about this quickly before heading into our first break, but Todd Monken was asked a bit about Derrick Henry's workload. And he said, quote, if he carries it 300 times, we're having a hell of a year. I can tell you that. It means we're running it a lot. It means we're up in games. We want him to finish. We want him to be the closer. But first and foremost, we want him to make it through the season. It's a long season, 17 games. We'll see how that goes. He's been so durable, but I still anticipate the same of using all of our backs, which I think is the right decision. Derrick Henry's going to be the first bell cow back in Baltimore in a pretty long time here. But that doesn't mean run him 35 times a game, run him into the ground. Tennessee ran him into the ground. In Baltimore, you don't have to do that, especially with Justice Hill. Whenever you get Keaton Mitchell back, that will be another addition. So you're going to lean on Derrick Henry. You rely on him, and you give him the most carries by far. But you manage that workload to make sure he's as effective in September as he is in January, at least up to the level you can make, as effective as you can make a running back in January.
When he won the Offensive Player of the Year in 2020, Kevin, I'm just looking at his numbers. Played in 16 games, rushed the ball 378 times for 2,027 yards, averaged just under 5.5 yards per carry, had 17 touchdowns on the ground. And what did he have here? 3 fumbles, 2 loss. But we're not going to look at those fumbles and the lost ones because of the monster numbers he just put up. So he's not getting any younger. We'll say that, and that's obvious. That is not a knock on Derrick Henry's talent in any way, shape, or form. But players do get wear and tear over time. We really haven't seen that with Derrick Henry. He's been durable. The Ravens are hoping he can come in, not only have him for this season, but next, and he is going to be just a dog for them. A guy like you talked about, bell cow that they can rely on. He can be the finisher, and I think we're going to see much of that. I don't know what the carries are going to look like. I don't know what the numbers are going to look like. You know, I wish I could predict the numbers for the lottery. But listen, if Derrick Henry's carrying the ball 300 times, each season he's done that. He's averaged 1,500 or more yards. He's done it. All right, we got 303 in 2019. He rushed for 1,540 yards. 2020, 378, rushed for 2,027 yards. 349 in 2022, rushed for 1,538 yards. In each of those years, he's been in double digits for touchdowns as well on the ground. So if the Ravens can get that kind of production from Derrick Henry, 300-plus carries for 1,500-plus yards or even 1,200-plus yards, I think this offense is going to be in really, really good shape going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you add him as a weapon in your backfield and essentially upgrade your weapons in the backfield for the Ravens. It's going to be a huge part. I mean, it already is a huge part of their identity. And if you can upgrade that, look, you sign me up 10 times out of 10 for that. But coming up in the second part of the show, we'll talk a bit about Rashod Bateman's role, what Todd Monken had to say about that, and more. Stay tuned. We got plenty to talk about here on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, the number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. All the parts needed, the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. We're back here, our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher and Rocco DiSangro still talking with you here on this Purple Friday. Again, appreciate you making Locked On Ravens a part of your day today. I'm dabbling in doing 2 bonus shows this weekend. You know, there was so much content that came out that I didn't have time to get my I actually had like 2. The evolution of how this show, Rocco, you don't even know this, is I had a plan for us for today, and I had that on like Tuesday. Maybe Wednesday, but I had it, and then these quotes come out from Lamar and everybody. So I'm like, all right, we'll push this down again. And then the Monken quotes come out, so we'll push it down again. And now we're at Friday. So we go Monday through Friday here on Locked On Ravens. Now we do some bonus content. So I might have to do a couple bonus episodes this weekend. Still up for debate. Last time I promised bonus episodes, I came down with a sickness literally the next day and like had a 103 fever and was dying on the mic. So I'm not going to promise anything. Yeah, Rocco knows my pain. So we're not going to promise it, but I do think we're going to do a couple bonus shows this weekend. But let's get into Rashod Bateman. Rocco, probably one of the more polarizing players on this roster this year. The production has been inconsistent. Obviously, him being a first-round pick, he has not lived up to expectations so far, but part of that has to do with injuries and sometimes just circumstantial, but it never seems like he and Lamar have been on the same page at all during the course of Bateman's career. And so Todd Monken expects Rashod Bateman to, 1, have a tremendous year, and 2, he wants to get him a lot more involved. When he was asked about Bateman and what his role can be and what his expectations are, he said, last year was interesting in the fact that we had Odell and Bate had missed offseason and some fall camp. So is he going to be healthy? So put Odell at the X. Then at the beginning of the year, Bateman goes a little banged up, and so does Odell. So here you are, and you've already in the season. We could have done a better job moving them around for sure, but as the year went on, Rashod really came on, and I've seen tremendous growth, but the growth is just because he didn't have an offseason last year. I didn't see that, but I expect a tremendous year out of him. So we know, Rocco, that this is the organizational feeling. We know that everybody believes in him because of the players that they did not bring in, wide receiver-wise. Felt like they really wanted to give Rashod that number 2 role and let him thrive in it, hopefully. Also, the fact that they gave him the extension, I know the 5th-year option kind of made things a little bit wacky there, but at the same time, it's like, you give a guy an extension, you clearly believe, and look, it was a steal of a deal for Baltimore considering what he can be, but that's the thing. It's what can he be? It's a risk in a way, because if it doesn't pan out, that's your number 2 receiver, but it feels like the potential is all the way there for Bateman. He just needs to be healthy, have that full off season to get on the same page with Lamar, and hopefully the connection can be incredible between those 2 next year.
There's no doubt about it, Kevin. People believe in his potential. I know there are some fans that are on the fence or completely, they're not sold on Rashod Bateman anymore. They're out on him. But then you have those that believe in his potential, that have seen it. They're like, okay, we drafted this guy in the 1st round. We believed he could be a wide receiver 1 for us. Maybe he can't, but maybe he could help us in some way, shape, or form and really take a big step this season, because the Ravens aren't going to even toy around with that 5th-year option. And obviously they didn't pick up the 5th-year option. They did one better, I guess, and they extended him. Win-win, it feels like. So with him, it's like, all right, man, like this is your time to shine. People believe in you. There are those out there. This organization believes that you can be great. You believe yourself that you can be great, but it is time to go out and prove it now. Like it's no longer okay. Like injuries happen, obviously, but if people see a down year from Rashod Bateman or Rashod Bateman has a down year, everyone's going to completely write him off. It's like, this is your time to shine. Go out there, ball out, have a great season, and let your work speak for itself. And hopefully we can see some sort of jump from Rashod Bateman this season and an even bigger step next season so he can build off of that. Last year, Kevin, he's coming off the injury. That's not easy to do. And then on top of that, you go out and draft a receiver in the 1st round. You bring in Odell Beckham Jr., who is, he's going to get his touches regardless. And then you get Nelson Aguilar as well. So there was a lot of change in that wide receiver room, more than has been there more high profile names, I'd say, in that room that has been there in years past. And Rashod, I don't know how he felt, if he felt some type of way about it. He seemed like he just went about his work, did his thing. Last year, it wasn't the Rashod Bateman people expected to see, but hopefully this is the year that it's like, okay, get on the same page as Lamar, build some more chemistry, and you're connecting for, a handful of touchdowns this season. Not big numbers from Rashod Bateman. I mean, that would be huge. That's what this fan base is hoping and just waiting for like big time production from this guy. Does he have to be a wide receiver one this year? No, I really don't think he does. I think Zay Flowers, I don't know if people are going to call him a true wide receiver one on a football team, but for the Ravens, he's their top dog. He's the guy. He's the guy that's going to be Lamar's favorite target. Him and Mark Andrews, they're going to be doing their thing. So Rashod Bateman, go out, create separation like you did last season, because we've seen the film. We've seen the film of him burning certain corners on routes. Maybe it wasn't every single play or every single game, but it was there. I think the talent's still there. I think the potential's still there. I still truly believe in Rashod Bateman, and I hope he has a great season, and I know this fan base does as well.
Yeah, you kind of alluded to it there a little bit in your answer, Rocco, but I think this is a make or break year for Rashod Bateman, and the extension gives him a little more leeway in terms of roster security, but I think this is a make or break year in terms of role, where the Ravens are giving him everything this year, right? Zay is going to be your one. We know that. But for Rashod, it's like there is no one challenging him for that number 2 spot. There's no one honestly even close. I mean, even Nelson Aguilar, who was a really solid bet for them last season, at best he's your 3. And that's even if Bateman struggles. Like he would have to have like 1,200 yards to, or at least challenge Bateman. But I don't think that's going to happen. So you are unchallenged for the number 2 role. The organization believes in you. Your teammates believe in you, right? Rashod Bateman is getting the full backing of this organization. And to me, if that is not capitalized on, I don't think Baltimore trusts him in a bigger role again. And the reason for that, or I wouldn't say again, but I would say not a demotion. I feel like that's the wrong word, but like he would get taken down on the pecking order because the contract allows you to do that. This is not like you're paying him $10 million. It was not a $10 million per year extension. This was essentially $5 million per season. And that is a bargain for even a number 4 guy at this point because of the way that wide receiver contracts are moving, right? So I think that Bateman is getting handed a huge role for the Ravens. They believe in him, but now it's on him to go out there and produce. And it's going to be big because it's a risk. If it doesn't pan out, that you're down a number 2 receiver, essentially, unless you go out there and make a trade at the deadline. So it's going to be interesting, especially because Lamar Jackson was also asked about him, Rocco. And he said, we have to get him the ball more. He's an elusive receiver. So I think Lamar understands, like, there's no, like, Odell crutch to lean on here, where there was always some conversation last year of, is the number 2 Bateman, is the number 2 Odell? And they had 3 solid guys. Like, you still have Nelson Aguilar, but he was your 4, and that was an extra crutch you had last year. Now everybody gets moved up in the pecking order, and you didn't bring in anybody else. It was Deontay Hardy, who's probably going to be a special teamer, maybe have some sort of role. Tez Walker, who could do some stuff as a rookie year, but I wouldn't expect a massive role. And then it's Tylan Wallace, who hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities, but at the same time, it's like, how much is he going to contribute? So this is essentially the Zay show, the Rashod show, and the Nelson show. Those 3, plus obviously you get Andrews and Likely, but that's a different conversation. So I think Lamar understands what time it is with the shot, and I think both those guys are going to be working hard to get a connection for the rest of the offseason, especially when they get together in Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his numbers back on that, Kev. He's only had 2 100-yard receiving games over the course of his career. So I know injuries have played a factor, but even when he's healthy, so I'd love to see a couple, if he can, if he's going to go out there and ball out, like I said, prove it, put up the numbers, and it doesn't always have to be the numbers. Just be reliable, get open. If Lamar finds you, great. If he doesn't, there's nothing more than you can do. And I'm not saying that has necessarily been the case in the past. In some instances, maybe it has, but we're looking at it from this point. It's not on Lamar. It's not on Bateman. It's on both guys to be on the same page, get on the same page, because That's what football is, man. It's going to take a talented quarterback, a 2-time MVP like Lamar Jackson to throw you the ball. And for you, Rashod Bateman, it's going to take you in a make or break year to get open and to be reliable for your 2-time MVP and be a source of someone who's there and someone he can rely on and lean on, because they're friends. But listen, you got to be his guy on the field as well. You got to be a guy he can lean on. So I think and I hope that Rashod Bateman can do that this year.
Yeah, major year. Such a major year for Rashod Bateman, and we're going to see how he handles it. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about Jamal Adams a little bit. Still no moves, still no crazy things in terms of the Adams situation, but we'll be talking about it a little bit more. Getting into the updates we do have, including what John Harbaugh had to say about the situation, so stay tuned. Still a ton to get to on the show. First, the show is brought to you by Yahoo Finance. And for me, it's really important to see all of my investment and retirement accounts in one place. Sometimes one thing can be over here, another thing over there, another thing over here. It's just, it all gets too crazy. But with Yahoo Finance, you can actually consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub. So for me, Yahoo Finance, I have 401ks and everything I need in one place. And it is so simple. And honestly, it's been such a huge relief for me to find something that can do this. And Yahoo Finance has been that for me. So I've also been big into growing my portfolio recently. Of course, the cost of inflation is huge and it is going up, let me tell you. So it's important, whether you're paying off debts on mortgages, anything standing in the way of your financial freedom. Yahoo Finance, you can get the access to news, data, and tools you need in order to help you reach your financial freedom, whatever it looks like for you. Now, for more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. And you're talking about number one finance destination. They are the number one finance destination. They have a holistic look at the financial cycle, and security is big. You can securely link your brokerage accounts to unified views of your wealth, including 401s and other investments. Those 401ks are huge. So with a community of over 90 million users each month, the real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. We are back. Our final segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher and Rocco DiSangro still chopping it up here on this Purple Friday. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, video form and audio form. We do 5 days of big Ravens content, even in this lull period-ish of the offseason. Not totally a lull right now because we got the OTAs and everything going on. But before you know it, Rocco, we're going to be at the preseason. Training camp will start. We get the regular season and Thursday night football, Kansas City. So that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I thought you had more to say, Kevin. I'm sorry.
No, I was leading you in.
It absolutely will be exciting. I think, the calendar is circled. It's week 1, Kansas City for the fan base. Another shot at the Chiefs. It's not a meaningless game, but when it comes to the postseason and trying to get to a Super Bowl, people might call it that. But you're going to look back at this. It's a game against the conference. It's a game against the defending Super Bowl champs. So while some out there may be like, okay, it's okay if the Ravens lose this game, they're not going in there with that mentality. They won't go in there with that mentality. It's a game where they're looking to not only go in and beat the Chiefs, they're looking to go in there and dominate. And I know, first-year defensive coordinator in Zach Orr, they've lost some weapons on both sides of the ball. But I think the Ravens are really poised to have a fantastic season. Is this going to be like the bar right here, beating the Chiefs? No, this is not going to make or break what the Ravens do in 2024 at all. But it might feel that way. It might feel that way to some because you got the knee-jerk reactions and whatnot and stuff like that. And I'm really excited for that, man. Preseason, we're going to get to see some of the newer faces. That'll be nice. But to me, it's about, okay, training camp, when everybody, the mandatory stuff, when everybody needs to be there, when everyone's on the field at the same time, and then you get into game 1, it's I'm fired up for some football, man. I can't wait to cover some more games. I can't wait to flip on my TV before I go into work and, Hanson's there talking about 7 hours of commercial-free football. It's the best. You can't beat it, dude.
Yeah, Scott Hanson, the hero everyone needs. Every Sunday, even when alarms are going off and everything's going crazy, Scott Hanson is there for you every single Sunday.
First countdown just hits different, Kev.
Oh man,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the intro. It's like, we are back, baby. Let's go.
That red zone theme is gonna go crazy. By the way, we do Locked On Ravens fantasy leagues, and those will be. I had 10 of those one year, Rocco. People are. I know we'll probably do some with the Ryan Ripton show as well, but fantasy football too, man. It's a different level of excitement in the air for all that. I'm a seasoned fantasy football. Actually, I won 2 of the 5 leagues, finished in second in one of them, and was not great in the other 2 last year. So
collusion? Do I smell collusion?
No, that was a different story. Where yes, I did cheat in fantasy football when I was in high school. But
that's scummy. So scummy of you, Kevin.
You know, I Larry Fitzgerald, Rob Gronkowski, and Peyton Manning were saved and were put on my team until I was kicked out. But
unbelievable.
Yeah,
I don't even want to do this show anymore.
You're just gonna leave right now. You're done.
Yeah.
Say bye. See ya. Can't be. Yeah. There. Yep. There he goes. There he goes. There he is. I knew you wouldn't leave me. By the way, any over you can take on the rushing attempts for Baltimore in that Kansas City game, I'm taking it. You go on FanDuel, find whatever over it is. 50 rushes, Rocco, over under. You might go over on that one. Just
like rush the ball 100 times if you can, whatever.
Every single snap.
No throws at all. I think that we're kidding. We are kidding.
Yes. Got to be balanced, which of course is what everybody wanted in the championship game. But alas, we are not talking about that anymore. Let's talk about Jamal Adams a little bit before we round out the show here. Interesting visit by the Ravens. Now, the Ravens need safety depth, Rocco. There's no question about that. You have Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams as your 2 big dogs, and that's great. One of the best safety tandems in the league. But you lost Geno Stone to the Bengals. Daryl Worley's to the free agent. And really, the way you replaced them is Sanusi Kane, who's your 7th-round pick, and Bo Braid, who's an undrafted guy, and that is a pretty big risk to go into the season with. So the Ravens end up visiting with Jamal Adams earlier in the week, and John Harbaugh was asked about it, said he was very impressed with the mindset of Adams, so they had a good meeting, and the way that they actually connected was at the Pro Bowl in 2019, I believe it was. They connected back when Adams was still with the Jets, and they ended up, hitting it off, and they rode the bus back and forth to practice, and they kind of formed a relationship. And so it's kind of like connections, who in, all of life, honestly. But for sports, sometimes that can happen. And I feel like with the Harbaugh family, if you get in with the Harbaugh family in some way, shape, or form, you're in pretty good shape. So it's an interesting fit based off the skill set, Rocco. But how do you feel about the potential of Baltimore adding Jamal Adams?
If they feel like, I want Zach Orr to be in on those conversations, and I'm sure he is. He's got to be. He's the defensive coordinator. And if they feel like, okay, Jamal Adams is a fit in what I want to scheme up, what I want to dial up, and you could get him at a decent price where it's not an overpay, because he's made money over the course of his career, and a lot of it. We just talked about his contract. What was he making? $70 million?
Yeah, the $70 million deal with the Seahawks. Crazy.
Yeah. So you're not going to get that from the Ravens, and the Ravens aren't going to pay you that. So if you would like to come in like on a discount and he can truly help the Ravens, I mean, this was a first-team All-Pro in 2019 and a 3-time Pro Bowler. But, that was 2018 to 2020. It's like the what have you done for me lately factor. And I'm not saying Jamal Adams is washed, but he's not the player that he was when he was a first-team All-Pro. You're not getting that Jamal Adams. Now, can Jamal Adams help the Ravens if he joins the Ravens? I feel like he could. Do you? I mean, I feel like this is a guy you could bring in at a decent price, and he's a seasoned vet, and he's been there before, and he's 28 years old. He's not even 30 yet. I wouldn't mind the signing. I would not mind them bringing him in at all. But the question is, how is he going to fit in with Marcus Williams? How is he going to fit in with Kyle Hamilton? Are you going to be able to be as versatile with Kyle Hamilton if Jamal Adams is on the field with Kyle Hamilton? That is also something we talked about. What positions are you going to be able to move Hamilton in if Jamal Adams is there on the field with him and Marcus Williams, if they run 3 safeties out there? What is that going to look like? Those are all questions that we obviously need the answers to, but questions we don't have the answers to right now, Kev.
Right. And to me, it's a very specific skill set Jamal Adams plays. With Patrick Queen going to the Steelers, the Ravens are not married to having two inside linebackers on the field at all times anymore. Trenton Simpson, I expect him to have a big year, but there could be times where he struggles or they want to put Malik Harrison or whatnot. With Patrick Queen, and obviously Roquan, there's no question about that. The Ravens, their best interest was to put those two guys on the field and let them work. You didn't need to play guys up at the line in terms of a dime backer, take Queen off the field for snaps and replace him with the safety. You wanted to have those two guys on the field a lot of the time. Jamal Adams would fill a dime backer role. They had that role with Chuck Clark before he got traded, and he thrived. So it fits that need. My worry with it is it's not the immediate skill set they need, because you mentioned Kyle Hamilton. You want Kyle Hamilton to be your chess piece, your move all around the field, do it all safety, like you said. So for Jamal Adams
too, Kev, you're echoing what I said. Zach Orr said exactly that.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
That's exactly what it is. So Adams, you can't necessarily trust him in too high at this point in his career. I don't think. You would have to put Hamilton there, and this is something the Steelers went through last year with Minkah Fitzpatrick, where they didn't have a ton of safety depth last year, and it forced them to play Minkah Fitzpatrick in a very specific role and didn't allow him to roam all around the field, and that hurt Pittsburgh's defense. So what did the Steelers do? They signed Deshaun Elliott, who's a former Raven. They bring in some safety depth and some secondary depth, and that will allow Minkah Fitzpatrick to go back to his role of playing and kind of being the chess piece of that Steelers defense.
Yeah.
So to me, if you limit Kyle Hamilton like the Steelers are limiting Minkah Fitzpatrick, that's not what you want to do, because that is not how you get the max out of your defense. So to me, I think replacing Geno Stone's skill set is more important. But if you do that and bring in Jamal Adams, then I'm all for it.
If Kyle Hamilton is not able to move around the field freely and line up in different positions at the line of scrimmage, right off the edge, like Zach Orr was talking about, back deep, wherever, like the different positions he's able to do, your defense gets worse if he is not able to be as versatile as he is, like that unicorn factor, because that's what Kyle Hamilton does. That's what makes him so great, because he's able to blitz off the edge and have a multi-sack game like he did against the Colts. He's able to get up in a quarterback's face and pick them off and run it in for a touchdown like he did against the Browns. He's able to drop back into coverage deep and limit the offense's ability to take the top off of defense. Kyle Hamilton is so good, and that's why Jadeveon Clowney gave him the nickname the Avatar, because while he's long and lanky, he's able to do so much, man. It's so cool that the Ravens have a player like this that is a Swiss Army knife. He is a true Swiss Army knife, a hybrid, a unicorn, whatever you want to call him. But when you start to limit what he's able to do on the field, then that's going to limit what you do as a defense, because he's so good at what he does. Am I saying Jamal Adams, a signing of him, is going to do that? No, because I'm not sure what Zach Orr has in store, or John Harbaugh has in store, or what they have defensively in store. They could be talking about stuff that we don't even know. This is what it's going to look like. And Hamilton's still going to be able to roam the field as freely as possible. But it's a wait and see kind of thing, Kevin. If Eric DeCosta, we've always said it, if he feels like Jamal Adams can help, if he feels like he can be a key piece to this defense and help the Ravens win games, they're going to bring him in for the right price, of course. If not, see you never. Have a good one, and we'll talk soon. We'll see you when we see you. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, Hamilton is the key. There are obviously plenty of players that make that defense, but there are plenty of players that can have an impact, but none can have an impact like Kyle Hamilton does, just in terms of positional versatility. And if you do not maximize that positional versatility, it limits what you can do as a defense, and is part of what made Baltimore's defense so good last season. So that, to me, is really important. And again, there are situations where the Adams signing works if they do make that move. But if you're relying on him to be the Marcus Williams replacement, if Marcus Williams goes down, it's not going to work. It's not going to. And which player? Marcus Williams had 5 really healthy seasons in New Orleans before coming to Baltimore. but he's been seriously injured the past 2 seasons. And so if you're going based off of history, hopefully nothing happens again, but I'd be a little worried if the Ravens didn't have a Marcus Williams replacement this year, because the reason why their defense was so good last year is because you could have Geno Stone step in for Marcus Williams or Ronald Darby step in for Marlon Humphrey, and that was your depth. So depth is important. We're going to see how they end up playing that whole situation out. Rocco, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for hopping on. Of course, tell people where they can find you, what you're working on, and what you got going on.
You can find me on Fox 45, Sports Unlimited. I anchor, I report. We're out at Ravens OTAs. We'll be out there at camp, preseason games, regular season games, whatever you want to call it. Do a podcast, Rip and Rock, with Ryan Ripken. We talk Orioles. We talk baseball in general. Have a lot of fun doing that. And then I hop on Ryan's show as a quote-unquote recurring guest from time to time, doing the Ryan Ripken show with Kevin and those guys. So we have a blast doing it all. It's fun. I love this city. I love the people here, the passion and the fan base. And whether you agree with me or not, just thank you for being so passionate in, watching these teams, the Ravens, the Orioles, Maryland, whatever it is. It's you, the fans, that make us love what we do so much. So thank you.
Yeah, no lack of passion for the city of Baltimore and their sports. So especially now with the Orioles doing well and the Ravens obviously being consistent, it's exciting. It's an exciting time in this city right now. Rocco, appreciate you again, and thank you for tuning into Locked On Ravens today. Again, be sure to subscribe, follow along, video form, audio form for 5 days a week, plus more of daily Ravens coverage. I will do a bonus episode tomorrow. Why not? Coming up tomorrow, we'll do a bonus episode. I'll be talking OTAs, talking Jamal Adams, and a lot more. So stay tuned to see you right back here tomorrow for a bonus episode of Locked On Ravens. Talk soon.